Go into the world and tell every man that you meet, there is a man on the cross.
A Catholic Take. What you need to know right now. A bold synthesis of inspiration and information. Keeping you up to date on the news and issues from a courageous Catholic perspective.
A Catholic Take with Joe McLean starts now.
Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to A Catholic Take, a bold synthesis of information and inspiration. I'm your host, Joe McLean. Praise be to God. It is good to be on with you. Speaking of being on, we're going to get Brent Haynes back on the team today. Brent is going to be talking about Kash Patel finding a locked room filled with hard drives and sensitive documents stuffed into burn bags, hidden away by the former administration. That sounds like Hollywood stuff, to be honest with you. But apparently it happened. Kash Patel says so we're going to jump into that story. Kim Davis is back in the news. You might remember Kim Davis. She's the lady in Kentucky who refused to sign those same-sex wedding certificates as a county clerk, and then she got in big trouble over that. She's also the lady that Archbishop Vigano got into a private audience with Pope Francis, which led to him being fired from his job as the ambassador from the Holy See to the United States. And she's before the Supreme Court. We're going to talk to Brent about that. But I also want to get into truth over lies over Israel and Gaza, Israel and Palestine. Because every time we talk about it, I'll get negative feedback. Joe, you're out of your mind. You don't know what you're talking about. Well, listen, today we got a guest on who served 4 years in the U.S. Office of Palestinian Affairs in Jerusalem. Spent 15 years in the Foreign Service, graduated from West Point, was an Army officer as well. Mike Casey is on the team. He has an article over the American Conservative on Israel. What would Jesus do? Palestinian Christian communities face systematic violence and oppression. So he's seen the truth and the lies firsthand. He had a front row seat to it. We're going to get him on the team to get his take on all of this at 30 past the hour. So lots of stories to discuss and cover today. We'd be grateful if you'd share us with a friend, but we have a lot to pray for as well. So let's get started. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, amen. Remember, O most gracious Virgin Mary, that never was it known that anyone who fled to thy protection, implored thy help, or sought thine intercession was left unaided. Inspired by this confidence, I fly unto thee, O Virgin of Virgins, my mother. To thee do I come, before thee I stand, sinful and sorrowful. O Mother of the Word incarnate, despise not my petitions, but in thy mercy hear and answer me. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, and now your saint of the day.
Saint Ignatius of Loyola, pray for us. Ignatius was born to a Spanish noble family in the year of our Lord 1491. He was a worldly and carefree young man, though not without certain virtues. He distinguished himself as a soldier, until his leg was broken by a cannonball, ending his military career and leaving him with a pronounced limp. As Ignatius recuperated in his father's castle in Loyola, he was brought spiritual works to read instead of the adventure tales he requested. He was soon overcome with remorse for past sins. Encouraged by a brief vision of Our Lady, Ignatius took a vow of chastity, abandoned his sword and other possessions, and made a pilgrimage to Rome and the Holy Land, having also begun writing what would become his famed spiritual exercises. Upon his return, Ignatius embraced a vocation to the priesthood, and in the year of our Lord 1534, he and a few companions, including St. Francis Xavier, founded the Society of Jesus, with Ignatius elected the first superior general. Ignatius himself never used the word Jesuit, which was originally a term of mild mockery that the society eventually claimed as their own. Ignatius died in Rome in the year of our Lord 1556, and is hailed as a patron of soldiers and Catholic retreats. For more about this day and others in the Church's calendar, visit thestationofthecross.com/saints-and-seasons. St. Ignatius of Loyola, pray for us.
And now your headline news. Catholic News Agency reports Father Carlos Martins cleared of misdemeanor charges. The popular podcasting priest, Father Carlos Martins, is no longer facing criminal charges after an incident at an Illinois parish last year. The disputed incident occurred when Martins touched a young girl's hair while telling a joke about his own baldness. The joke occurred publicly in a classroom setting with teachers, clergy, parish staff, and volunteers present. The incident led to Will County prosecutors filing a criminal complaint against Martins in January, one that alleged that Martins went so far as to place the girl's hair in his mouth. Yesterday, the Burke Law Group said that prosecutors, quote, withdrew those charges and dismissed the case without any finding of any wrongdoing or criminal liability on the part of the priest. The court's ruling is a full vindication of Father Martin's innocence from the beginning of any and all criminal wrongdoing. Praise be to God. The Hill reports Texas GOP unveils new planned congressional map. Texas Republicans unveiled a proposal for a new congressional map yesterday as a redistricting battle heats up across the country. State Rep Todd Hunter filed the proposal as Texas lawmakers met for a special session. President Trump had pressed the Lone Star State Republicans to redraw the lines to protect the party's narrow 219 to 212 House majority in the next year's midterms. Analysis of the maps projects a potential 5-seat gain for the new proposal, including a big shift to the 35th congressional district near San Antonio and Austin. And Catholic Vote reports Tulsa Catholics mourn murdered altar server. A faithful Catholic young man was shot dead at a parish festival at an Oklahoma church on Sunday. His parish family held a special mass for him on July the 29th for the 15-year-old who had been an altar server there. The shooter, a young, unaffiliated youth with the parish, turned himself in after the shooting occurred. May God rest his soul. And those are your headline news. The gospel today comes to us from Matthew chapter 13, verses 47 through 53. Jesus said to his disciples, "Again, the kingdom of heaven is like to a net cast into the sea, and gathering together of all kinds of fishes, which when it was filled, they drew out, and sitting by the shore, they chose out the good into vessels, but the bad they cast forth. So shall it be at the end of the world. The angels shall go out and shall separate the wicked from among the just, and shall cast them into the furnace of fire. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Have ye understood all these things?" They said to him, "Yes." And he said to them, "Therefore every scribe instructed in the kingdom of heaven is like to a man that is a householder, who bringeth forth out of his treasure new things and old." And it came to pass, when Jesus had finished these parables, he passed from thence. The gospel of the Lord. Laus tibi Christi. St. Jerome would say, "For when the end of the world shall be come, then shall be shown the true test of separating the fishes. And as in a sheltered harbor, the good shall be sent into the vessels of the heavenly abodes. But the flame of hell shall seize the wicked to be dried up and withered." The Ignatius Catholic Study Bible would say the parable of the dragnet envisions the day of judgment when the righteous are separated from the wicked. Leading up to this event, men and women are gathered into the kingdom from all nations, just as a net pulled through the sea collects various species of fish. The fishermen of the parable are the apostles and missionaries of the church. The angels are elsewhere linked with the coming of Christ in judgment. He goes on, every scribe. Legal experts in the first century Judaism were called scribes. Here it denotes the apostles instructed for the kingdom. Jesus equips them to evangelize and catechize the world about the treasures hidden in the Old Covenant and manifested in the New. Matthew's own ministry follows this pattern. He continually cites the Old Testament to explain its fulfillment in Jesus Christ. Father Machiavelli, writing back in the 19th century, would say, In the church are found every description of persons, whether bond or free, rich or poor, from every quarter of the globe, saints and sinners. Not that any are saints before entering the church, as the fishes are good before caught in the net. The parable is only meant that in the net, after they have entered it, are found good and bad, saints and sinners. When at the end of the world, the fullness of the Gentiles shall have entered, this parable exhibits the capacity and amplitude, the Catholicity of the church, as the net, the whole church, takes in the entire world. The parable was introduced for the twofold purpose of removing any grounds of surprise at seeing sinners and wicked men in the church, as even in the best constituted kingdoms we find thieves, murderers, etc., and of cautioning us against feeling too secure because we are members of the church, which includes sinners as well as saints, reprobates as well as the elect. At the end of the day, there's no hiding. The light of Christ will shine into the darkness and vanquish the darkness, and we will see the cockroaches scurrying about. But they're still in the house, this house that is the church. You have saints and sinners, and it won't be until the end of time until those two are separated. We must learn. We must learn to have patience. I guess I'm speaking to myself here. I must learn to have patience because, golly gee whiz, lest I look in the mirror and find a sinner. What will I do? St. Gregory the Great would say, "For as the sea signifies the world, so the seashore signifies the end of the world. And as the good are gathered into vessels, and the bad are cast away, so each man is received into eternal abodes, while the reprobate, having lost the light, are cast into hell." We'll be back. There are lots of stories that are in the news that are of great concern to us, and I'm sure they are to you as well. And joining us again this week is our good friend, Brent Haynes, Catholic and attorney and freedom fighter, friend of the show. Good morning to you, Brent. Thanks for being on the team.
Hello, Joe. Hello, everyone.
I want to get into the story of Kash Patel first today. Kash Patel, according to him, he's found a secret room, a hidden room in the FBI headquarters in the Hoover Building of all places. And apparently there are hard drives in this room that nobody knows. Like, hey, what's the deal with these hard drives? Nobody knows. There are burn bags filled with documents related to Russiagate, sensitive documents in burn bags, hidden and locked away in this room. This is the stuff of Hollywood. Like, I expect to see a Hollywood thriller along these lines. But Kash Patel says this is reality. What say you?
Well, again, we're back in a situation talking about the FBI with the attitude of you can't make this stuff up. But it shouldn't surprise anyone at this point, and it's probably not going to surprise any of your listeners or viewers. This is the same FBI that investigated parents who showed up at high school Board of Education meetings because they didn't want their daughters having to share locker rooms with biological boys. This is the same FBI that, of course, investigated conservative, traditional Latin Mass Catholics. We've talked about that before on the show. And then it's the same FBI that we talked about again very recently about how it turns out that when the FBI director appeared before Congress and said that the investigation of Catholic Latin Mass parishes was very limited, turns out that that was false testimony. There have been FISA abuses by the FBI, and FISA stands for Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court. That basically allows federal agents to get a secret warrant to go and conduct a governmental search. So now there are people running the FBI under the current presidential administration who are not in with the Washington establishment. They're not part of the Washington, D.C., cocktail culture. They're not worried about where their careers will go afterwards. They're trying to get records out there, and they're trying to get to the bottom of a lot of the activities that's happened in the past. Among those other abuses of the FBI, there was, of course, the notorious Steele dossier, which was at least in part a product of the Hillary Clinton for President campaign, according to many claims over the years now and other sources that have come out since. And the FBI used that Steele dossier as part of a reason to initiate an operation called Crossfire Hurricane, which was essentially an investigation of Donald Trump into the allegations that Trump and Putin were conspiring together, or that Russia was conspiring to get Trump elected president. So to find a lot of documents that are related to this, and to find them in burn bags, and to find them in a secret room, and what it is, it's a computer secure room. It's like a SCIF essentially. It's a secure computer information facility, and that's so that Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and other electronic surveillance can't breach that actual room. So the FBI director has said that he has turned over or will turn over these documents to Senator Orrin Hatch, who is chairman of this Judiciary Committee in the Senate, and we'll find out a lot of what is in there, because Senator Hatch is Senator Grassley from Iowa is a very sober, responsible senator who's been there for decades. He's released other information about activities like this before. He can hardly be considered a bomb-throwing, radical conservative. He's not like, for example, say Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene or some of the other more headline-grabbing conservatives in the House of Representatives. So we have more evidence now about what the FBI did regarding this, alleged Russiagate conspiracy. We're going to find out more, and we have a very sober, responsible senator in Washington who's going to get a lot of that information out to the public.
It is interesting to see these turn of events. I mean, we all kind of are like our approval rating of Congress, of our government, is pretty low in general, but it's stories like this that continue to plummet our trust in our government, because they do things like this. They hide stuff in burn bags and secret locked away rooms in the government headquarters. And when we find out about it, we're like, what else are you hiding? I mean, it's just always something. Let's turn to another story. I want to go to Kim Davis is back in the news. She is going before the Supreme Court, asking them to overturn Obergefell, which would be awesome. I want to get into that. But she's also asking them to waive the $360,000 penalty. We all remember Kim Davis from when she was in Kentucky, and she refused to sign same-sex marriage wedding certificates as a county clerk. But we also remember her because it was Archbishop Vigano, when he was the nuncio from the Holy See to the United States, that got her in private audience with Pope Francis, which led to him being fired as the papal nuncio from the Holy See, which is an amazing turn of events. But let's talk about the Obergefell angle to this. If the Supreme Court overturns Obergefell, what happens to marriage in America?
Well, I know that a lot of faithful Christians are fervently hoping and praying that the Supreme Court will overturn Obergefell. That is extremely unlikely. There are, two main reasons for that. First of all, even taking aside the controversial nature of the decision among, traditional, faithful Christians, just pretend that all of the issues in the case are neutral. Courts in the United States, and especially the U.S. Supreme Court, follow a jurisprudential practice of deciding the issue before the court according to the lowest level of authority, or the lowest level in the decision-making hierarchy. What I mean by that is the court will not reach a constitutional issue, which is the very highest level, if it can decide the case according to, say, a statutory issue, because statutes are beneath the Constitution, right? The Constitution, by definition, is the absolute rule, and nothing in the Constitution, by definition, can be unconstitutional, but statutes can be unconstitutional. And so if the court is presented with a case where they can say that a certain statute is unconstitutional, or a certain statute is alleged to be unconstitutional, if they could decide that case without determining whether or not the statute is constitutional, they will frequently do that. They do that for judicial economy, and they also do that to make sure that the issues are clearly litigated and fully advocated before the court. That's why also a lot of times the court will decide issues on procedural bases. So the court is almost certainly not going to reach the issue of Obergefell here just for that reason alone. And that would not be unusual in this case. The point of my lengthy explanation on this somewhat boring aspect of jurisprudence is a lot of times the hot button issue in a legal case gets the headlines, but the court ends up deciding the case on much more mundane grounds or grounds that are important but didn't get the headlines. So in Kim Davis's case, first of all, she has asked the Supreme Court to review her case. They have not agreed to take it, and they might not agree to take it. That's the first point. Second, it is actually a very complicated case because it is primarily a claim that she has a First Amendment right to her religious beliefs and her freedom of speech, or her religious beliefs, or both, or to exercise those rights in common. And she was essentially denied, she was denied the opportunity to use her religious beliefs as a defendant in the civil lawsuit that was filed against her by these two men who have been persecuting her for 10 years. And they have. And there's all kinds of other evidence out there that we don't have time to go into, and a lot of which cannot be repeated on a family-friendly show like this, where people have called and threatened her and threatened her family and threatened her husband. Yeah. It's just the behavior.
Brent, let me jump in real quick, because wasn't it just this week there was a headline that said the Trump administration has come out and said, yes, like federal employees can definitely, talk about their faith, exhibit their faith at work. They don't have to hide. And here we have not a federal employee. She was a state employee working in Kentucky. But at the same time, isn't the principle the same? That if it's good for federal employees, shouldn't it also be good for state employees? Well,
her lawyers will probably make that kind of argument. And they have plenty of other examples to choose from. To remind people, she was the clerk in her county in Kentucky. So as the clerk, she would normally sign marriage licenses, and she refused to sign the marriage license after Obergefell for two men because she said it violated her sincerely held religious beliefs. Now, it's important for people to understand that when a government official gets sued for something they do in the government, there are two critical issues to consider. It might sound odd to non-lawyers, but government officials can be sued in their capacity as a government official or in their individual capacity. And there's a critical distinction there, because if you're sued in your official capacity, it doesn't matter how much money somebody gets awarded by a jury. You don't have to pay anything out of your pocket. But if you're sued in your individual capacity, that's like suing the person personally, and they have to make that judgment good if they lose. And that's what happened to Kim Davis. So she, in her official capacity, she would be a state actor. And the courts have said she was acting as a state actor when she refused to sign, and that's true. What she is saying is that she was entitled to a religious accommodation. And Kentucky law, they have a Religious Freedom Act in Kentucky, and she essentially has been denied the opportunity to use these legal defenses in court to avoid having a judgment against her. And it's a judgment against her in her individual capacity. So they're trying to bankrupt her. So it's actually a complicated case where the court's going to consider First Amendment issues, whether or not government officials can be sued in their individual capacity when they take an action that they say is an exercise of their individual rights under the Constitution, whether or not they can only be sued in their official capacity. And there's also an issue here, which is another narrow and somewhat complicated question. The plaintiffs in this case didn't suffer any physical damages. They sued for emotional damages because she refused to sign the marriage license. Now, that is an issue in the law that applies in many cases. In some states, you cannot even sue for intentional infliction of emotional distress. The law has always been very skeptical of emotional damages if there are no physical damages, and it's usually a very limited area of the law because it's so subject to abuse.
Very subjective. Oh, my feelings were so hurt. Oh, I'm entitled to $42 million. Hey, that music means we're out of time, Brent. Let's pray. I would love to see Obergefell overturned, but it wouldn't be that simple as you sort of in your legalese explained. It's not that simple. It's not that straightforward. Even Biden took measures to protect homosexual marriage, even if Obergefell was overturned. So we're going to have to continue to pray for that to change. But we'll link to it in the show notes. Coming up after the break, let's talk about truth and lies in Israel and Gaza. Mike Casey's on the team. Coming up in 2 minutes. Don't go anywhere. Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to A Catholic Take, a bold synthesis of information and inspiration. I'm your host, Joe McClain, and here are your headline news. Ground News reports Trump announces a 25% tariff on India. President Donald Trump announced a 25% tariff on imports from India starting August the 1st. In addition to the tariff, Trump stated that India would face penalties for continuing its military equipment and oil purchases from Russia during the Ukraine war. Trump emphasized India's high tariffs as a barrier to trade, stating that they are among the highest in the world and have limited business relations between the two countries. Indian officials are still negotiating a trade deal with the U.S., although no final agreement has been reached despite ongoing discussions for months. Just the News reports Supreme Court to discuss Ghislaine Maxwell appeal. The Supreme Court will meet in private on September the 29th to discuss Ghislaine Maxwell's bid to overturn her sex trafficking conviction. Maxwell has argued she should have been immune from prosecution due to an agreement with Jeffrey Epstein that he made before his death with federal prosecutors. The prospect of a Trump pardon has raised speculation, though the president has indicated he hadn't considered such a move. And Catholic Vote reports fascinating poll shows moral compass of Americans. A new Gallup poll found that Americans of both major parties will have, they believe in unison that adultery, human cloning, and suicide are immoral. But the moral consensus breaks down sharply between parties on issues such as abortion, fornication, and gender reassignment, with Democrats holding radically progressive opinions of each. And those are your headline news. Speaking of news, here's something I saw in the headlines this morning. Trump calls Gaza starvation terrible, reaffirms pledge to send aid. I'll link to this as well as to a great article that I saw over at the American Conservative on Israel. What would Jesus do? Palestinian Christian communities face systematic violence and oppression by Mike Casey. Mike spent 15 years in the Foreign Service. He spent 4 years in Jerusalem out of the U.S. Office of Jerusalem Palestinian Affairs. Graduated West Point, served in the American Army as an officer, and he joins us this morning. Good morning to you, Mike. Thank you for your time.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me.
This is a complicated issue, to say the least. And every time I talk about it, I tend to get, hate mail or whatever, calling me anti-Semitic and all the rest. And that's okay. But one of the, I always look for voices, people who have like boots on the ground kind of experience. When I read your article and I saw your background, I really wanted to get you on, and I'm so grateful to have you here. I want to start with truth versus lies. You spent 4 years living there. What is true from your experience being there versus what we are told here in the West in the headlines, or even talking heads like me online or what have you? What's true? What's not?
Well, again, thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you here. And I think actually recently what we see in the news is mostly we get the true story of what's in Gaza, but people just don't believe it, right? And what we're seeing in Gaza in terms of numbers and starvation and the number of people that are dying and the number of people who are being killed is true information. People just discredit it and won't believe it. I mean officials within the U.S. government and others. And I think a lot of it is just how much it impacts people on a day-to-day basis is what we often miss in the news. We see, of course, the crisis in Gaza, which is the biggest issue, the biggest problem, but just what happens every day in the West Bank in terms of settler violence against Palestinians, theft of territory, just the day-to-day abuse that Palestinians have faced even before the October 7th attacks and the war that we've seen after that fact. So just how bad it is, I think, on a day-to-day basis is something that we don't appreciate.
You mentioned the October 7th attack, 2023. I think that's good to bring up because that's also one of the more contentious issues is if I criticize Israel's actions in Gaza or the West Bank or what have you, that always comes up. But Joe, Hamas is a terrorist organization. They've done horrible things. And my response is, I agree. I think what they did was terrible and horrible and disgusting and inexcusable. I'm not on their team. But it seems like there's a serious lopside here on the rationale because what was it, like 1,600 people murdered or assaulted or kidnapped in the October 7 deal, but there's been literally tens of thousands have died in the attacks since, hasn't it? I mean, it seems very lopsided.
Yeah, Hamas is a terrorist organization. The attack on October 7th was terrible in every sense of the word. There's no justifying it in any way. And Hamas was a problem even before that. That was a lot of my reporting before that. It was how bad Hamas is in Gaza in terms of how they govern, which they can use govern in a very loose sense in the way that they act and the things that they do. But we didn't take any actions to stop that because that was what Netanyahu and others in the Israeli government wanted. They wanted Hamas there. They wanted Hamas running Gaza to keep this division within Palestine between the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and Gaza. And so it was a policy that supported them being there. And there were multiple steps we talked about how to get rid of Hamas in Gaza peacefully through elections and other means. And it just was never picked up because that was not what the Israeli government wanted to do. So, and I'm not justifying that by any means in the attack and their support for them. And yeah, what we've seen since then has just been disproportionate. I mean, just the number of civilians who have been killed and the use of aid as a weapon, which is really the biggest issue of deliberately denying food aid to Palestinian civilians. And when I was in there before I left the government, we argued about this, whether Israel was blocking aid. And, colleagues of mine, Stacey Gilbert and others who resigned because of that we said that Israel was not blocking aid. Since the Trump administration came on, they've just come out and said that they're blocking aid. We're deliberately stopping aid from getting to people in order to try to force a negotiation. And that's wrong. It's illegal. It's immoral. And everyone knows that. And it's just frustrating to see people support that know that that's wrong. And it's really frustrating.
Going back to Hamas for just 1 second here, I guess it was yesterday we heard there was a joint statement of Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and others that are calling for Hamas to relinquish any control, governance over Gaza. How much actual governance do they have at this point over Gaza?
At this point, it's quite minimal, given the level of destruction there. Nobody has any governance in Gaza at the moment. It's obviously chaos, which is sort of by design in terms of policy. You have the IDF operating in Gaza. You have Hamas remnants, which are quite limited. You have criminal gangs, essentially, who are being armed by the Israeli government to fight Hamas within Gaza. And you have a number of aid agencies that are trying to operate there as well. So it's just a sort of environment of chaos there. So no one really has any governance control there. But Hamas would remain as a spoiler in any future arrangement in Gaza, whether that's a Palestinian government there, an IDF long-term occupation, some sort of interim international government, whatever it is that will come out of this, Hamas will still exist, and they'll serve as a spoiler role, if nothing else.
There feels like there's just a lot of manipulation in these stories, manipulating our hearts, our minds, and our thoughts towards Israel. A lot of Christians in the United States hold the dispensationalist position, and therefore they feel like they have to, no matter what Israel does or doesn't do, they have to be on the side of Israel in every case. I don't hold that position at all. But this has been something that's been very confusing to me. Why does the U.S. government hold that position? Why? It seems to me like, by and large, no matter who's in office, Republican, Democrat, it doesn't seem to matter much. Whatever Israel wants, whatever Israel gets, and we don't even question it. Why is this? And is it true? Maybe it's not true.
So the blind support for Israel is certainly a problem, and in particular, not supporting Israel as an idea and then supporting the specific policies of the Israeli government, especially as many of those policies make Israelis less safe and cause more damage to Israel than they do to make it better. In terms of the U.S. government, I mean, I wish I had a solid answer for you. It's something I wrestled with during my time there. Like, why are we throwing everything in behind this government, this right-wing government in Israel, throwing money behind them, throwing international support behind them, isolating ourselves internationally? You see that in the news now. Canada, France, the UK talking about recognizing a Palestinian state. And so it just pushes us into this increasingly isolated corner. We're vetoing things at the UN Security Council, and we're the only ones that are doing that. And so we isolate ourselves on their behalf. There's government inertia, right? Once a policy is running, it's hard to change. There's the idea of sunk cost. We've already put billions of dollars into the Israeli government and in their policies, and we don't want to stop that now. There's sort of personal level sometimes where people just don't want to admit that they were wrong on the policies, that the Israeli officials they've worked with for years are lying and manipulating them, which is diplomacy 101, but a lot of people don't want to admit that. Some people have an outdated idea of Israel. President Biden in particular, when he would talk about Israel, he's talking about Israel from 30, 40 years ago. He's not talking about the Israel now. And the situation has gotten worse. So if people change their perspective on it, the situation on the ground has also changed. Even before October 7th, we saw every year was a record-breaking level of violence against Palestinians in the West Bank and East Jerusalem. 2021 is the most violent, and then 22, and then 23. and the level of settlement expansion that was going on. This humanitarian situation in Gaza was getting even more critical. So it's just everything was getting worse even before October 7th. So the situation on the ground has certainly changed. So if people are reevaluating their support for the Israeli government and its policies, it's a good time to do it, because there's a lot of things that have shifted, and obviously leading up to the genocide in Gaza, that there's reason to change opinions that have maybe been long held for some time.
How are you? Did you experience anything personally? I've heard others, like in our private exchange, I told you about. I used the example of John Kirikawa, the CIA whistleblower. You know, he would share stories about, you know, personally being harassed by Israeli officials and Mossad agents and things like that. Did you experience anything like that whatsoever?
Yeah, I mean, the Israelis treat us like garbage. I remember when Ambassador Tom Nides came on board, he was sort of shocked by that when we were trying to arrange visits and do things. He's like, why do these guys treat us so terribly given all that we do for them? So, yeah, the relationship in that sense, I mean, our own ambassador would be stopped and harassed at the airport. Other diplomats were routinely stopped and harassed by Israeli security, particularly diplomats of color. And just going through the West Bank, when you're out on some sort of trip or visit or something like that, the amount of you get harassed by violent settlers will come up and harass our vehicles there. And it was a frightening situation to be in, because knowing that if something were to happen to us, that our government would side with Israel, right? Like as a diplomat, if I was shot by a settler, the first thing that Ambassador Liu would have done was, write a letter to my mom saying it was my fault, right? Like this environment that we would support them no matter what they did, even if one of us was killed over there, was very prevalent in our office, that we felt that way. And so it's just, the day-to-day treatment and trying to deal with things, it's not what you would expect from a so-called ally that we give billions of dollars in aid to. But I mean, and that's part of the course in a lot of countries that, and it was a very frustrating point. And it was, and I wish sometimes that, the American people could sometimes see some of their members of Congress when they would come visit, and when they sit in meetings with the Israelis and they're just so gung-ho about Israel that even the Israelis themselves are sort of taken back by it. And it's just, it's like you're just pushing so hard and doing so much for a country that treats us, individually like garbage every chance they get.
And
so
Americans
it was really a point
don't
of
know
frustration
this.
for us.
Yeah, Americans.
No, I don't think anyone understands that.
Not at all. I mean, some of the stories that I've heard from various people, my mind is blown. I'm like, why would we tolerate this in any way, shape, or form in a country we give $1 billion a year to? That makes zero sense to me. Okay, let's talk about Donald Trump for a second here, because as I talked about at the beginning of our conversation, he's saying today he's acknowledging the starvation. That's a step in the right direction. He wants to do something about that. Is Donald Trump's administration in any way different than previous administrations in the relationship with Israel, calling Israel's issues out publicly?
No, I mean, we've done that in the past, where we will call things out, we'll condemn settlement expansion and different things like that, but we don't necessarily do anything about it. Calling for investigations, doing the standard diplomatic language that we do in a lot of places. We do that with the Israelis from time to time, but then there's no follow-up to it. There's nothing that comes up behind that. And I don't have much faith in the Trump administration to change anything in that respect. There's plenty of opportunities for it, especially within Congress. I mean, there's a vote seemingly almost every couple of weeks on a weapons package or something like that, where senators and others have a chance to step forward and say, no, we're not going to support this, and we're not going to push it forward. But the Trump administration, it's just absolute blind support for the Israeli government and what they do. In the Biden administration, you would at least have, there's an analysis, we'd talk about it, we'd analyze what the consequences are of certain actions, maybe try to pressure the Israelis in a little way to change what they're doing. But the sense with the Trump administration is we just sign the paper they send to us, right? Like there's no thought about it. There's no analysis of it and what should be done going forward. There's that's insane.
Yeah. We're right at a break here. We're going to be going to a break here in a moment, but I got to say, it feels a wee bit like a land grab. And that's the quiet part being said more and more out loud these days. And that's something I want to get into on the other side of the break. But Donald Trump, really quick, we have seconds now. Donald Trump did say something when Netanyahu was in Washington a few months back, that maybe the United States should occupy Gaza or the West Bank. I wonder what you think about that.
It's just nonsensical, and it's standard fare from Donald Trump that he will just come out and say something that's completely absurd, it's not workable, and then kind of walk off stage and forget about it.
Just yesterday, the papal nuncio from the Holy See to the United Nations gave a statement there, basically calling for a two-state solution, peaceful settlement of Palestine. I'm going to link to it in the show notes for you. We're having a conversation with Mike Casey, who also wrote an article on Israel. What would Jesus do? Palestinian Christian communities face systematic violence and oppression. Mike spent 4 years working out of the U.S. Office for Palestinian Affairs there in Jerusalem. Good morning to you again, Mike. Thank you for your time today. I'm concerned that Israel's real strategy, a real goal, and many Israeli citizens have actually said this on camera, Sky News, BBC, all kinds of places, tons of clips out there. And they're saying the quiet part out loud. Essentially, they think Bibi Netanyahu is Joshua, and Gaza and the West Bank, that's Jericho. Time to surround the place and take it down. They want the land, and they just want these people to be gone, and they want to occupy the land. At the end of the day, that word genocide feels harsh, it feels politicized, it feels manipulative, but it kind of feels like it fits too. And I'm wondering whether or not a two-state, in your opinion, do you think a two-state solution is possible? How do we pull that off? But I also wonder whether or not Trump might have been onto something. At first, I criticized him for it, to be honest, but now I'm thinking, I don't know. How could we stop the Israeli government from continuing a land grab unless we were boots on the ground? I don't know. What do you say?
The two-state solution, I mean, it's been on life support for the last few years, and there's many people who say it's no longer feasible, and there's a lot of evidence for why that is, especially in terms of expansion in the West Bank in particular, not to mention within Gaza. And, the solution now needs to move towards a one-state solution with equal rights for everyone, which is also a policy option that we could pursue. In terms of the two-state solution, there are ways to keep it alive, I think. And in terms of stopping the Israeli government, we have many levers of stopping them there. I mean, just financial, right? How much money we give in terms of military aid and supplies. Diplomatic, we are constantly out there, sticking our neck out at the UN for Israel, vetoing items sometimes where we're the only one doing so. So withdrawing that diplomatic support is another way to do it. So there's plenty of levers that we can use to change the Israeli government's behavior. We simply choose not to do so.
Right. So if we choose not to do so, so you said one state solution, equal rights for all. Okay, that's interesting. But how likely is that? I mean, look at these Jewish settlers and their behavior in the West Bank. They attacked the only Christian village left in the West Bank again just the other day, even after there was international outcry, and all of the patriarchs in Jerusalem, East and West, united together. Praise be to God. They raised their awareness, and they're still attacking these villagers. So, I mean, it seems like we'd have an apartheid if there was a one-state solution.
Well, we already do have an apartheid system there, and more and more international organizations in that are identifying that as that's the system there for Palestinians who live under Israeli control, which all Palestinians do to an extent, despite the claims that some areas are under control of the Palestinian Authority. But everyone's daily life is influenced by Israel and what they decide and what they do. And yeah, I mean, there will certainly be violence between communities. There is now. That won't change if it's two state or if it's one state. But that those issues would have to be addressed in the future. But it's a larger framework that could be implemented and could be moved forward with significant economic and diplomatic pressure on the Israeli government and the Palestinian government as well. And this is an issue that I've tried to raise, is how little we pressure the Palestinian government. There's often talk that it's corrupt, it's weak, it needs to be reformed, and all of that is true. But we don't pressure them at all because that's the kind of Palestinian government the Israeli government wants to have in Ramallah. They want to have this corrupt person that they can shape to their own behavior. So we've often not done the work that needs to be done to support a more credible Palestinian entity because the Israeli government doesn't want that. And so that's another gap in our policy that I've tried to address for a long time, is we need to, if we want a Palestinian state, we need to make a Palestinian state in terms of, economic, political reforms and support. And we haven't been doing that either.
Generally speaking, I served in the Marine Corps, but I'm not a big fan of regime change policies that we've had in our country now for decades, it seems. But in this case, I don't know what else we could do to help these people. And I fear that the only thing that we are going to do is kind of go along and move these people out and try to get some other country to accept these refugees so that Israel can just have the land. And I guess we get the Riviera on the Mediterranean there in Gaza. It just seems really unjust to me as far as that goes. So at the end of the day, you're saying that we have to have a government that's going to want to apply economic pressures to Israel, stop sending them checks, weapons, etc., until they change their policies. We also have to have a government that's going to want to get rid of Hamas and implement a government structure there that's just, fair, and equitable to its own people. But all of that seems like a bridge too far. So what's the bottom line here? What does the next 10, 20 years look like there?
I mean, there's the ideal situation and the reality on the ground. And I think, as you mentioned with Gaza, I mean, the strategy is, as much as the Israeli government has a strategy, which they really don't and haven't for months, other than just destroying everything and rendering Gaza uninhabitable, is, where do we go from here? Do things just continue to get worse? More and more land is stolen in the West Bank and in Gaza. Has it become a long-term occupation? What happens to the people in Gaza, even just their basic needs? Because the Israeli government, if they take over, they're not going to provide for them. And so who's going to pay for that? Who's going to deal with that? The practical steps in Gaza, even if the war ended tomorrow, are just immense. I mean, we're talking decades of, recovery and reconstruction and aid and billions of dollars. And, it was taking, several $1 billion of U.S. and international funding just to keep Gaza running the way it was even before October 7th. So where do we go from here and what happens next? It's hard to say. I mean, it depends a lot on what changes in the United States. We're seeing change in European capitals in terms of, recognition of a Palestinian state. Does it reignite peace talks? There's going to be an election in Israel within a year, at least. And what does that election lead to? Is it more of an even more far right government than we have now? What does the election mean in the United States? Do we start to see changes in U.S. support for Israel, particularly among the Christian community, which is what I wrote about in the article? Do we start to see these changes in, we're seeing more of a, people steering away from Israel than steering towards it. Support is down amongst almost every group in the U.S., especially among the youth and others, tying Palestinian issues into a larger sort of struggle for equal rights around the globe. So I think there's a lot of things that are shifting in a positive direction outside of Israel and Palestine. Within the country itself, things are turning the opposite way. And it would definitely take a lot of work to switch them and change them around. But obviously the first step is to stop hostilities, get aid to people, keep people from starving and dying, just preserving people's lives, and then seeking to apply pressure where needed, negotiate, and really figure out what we want to do and move forward on it. And that's what we've lacked for a long time, is the United States doesn't have a real strategy. We just do what the Israeli government tells us to do, even if it's, completely against our own interests.
So you seem to be saying that there's been a big shift in public opinion on this. And do you see that as a positive shift? I mean, and I guess one of the last questions, because we're going to run out of time here, is the shift positive as far as awareness goes? And also, what about the manipulation of news stories? How do you see that? Is the news being reported fairly, or is it still very manipulative?
I mean, it can be at times, but I think on Gaza, we're seeing a lot more reporting, and it's gotten so bad, and the numbers are just impossible to deny. And there's many credible sources of reporting, and the Israeli government and the U.S. government would seek to discredit sources like the Ministry of Health in Gaza or the United Nations and others who are reporting information. But, it's becoming impossible to deny. And you see even in more sort of media circles that would support Israel, even having to admit that, things aren't trending the way they want to. The number of people who say it's not genocide is getting smaller and smaller by the day. And the number of people who say it is growing. So I think that the news information that's out there, it's getting too hard to deny. But obviously there's still manipulation of it and trying to shift the narrative that this is really just all Hamas's fault and it's not the Israeli government that's starving people and things. So there are opinions that come out there that are contrary and shifting. But the basic data, I think, is getting too hard to ignore and is being reported more widely.
Well, let me sneak one last question in with 60 seconds on the clock. The people of Gaza, they're being associated with Hamas like they are pro-terrorist here. What would you say to that? The Christians in Gaza, are they pro-terrorist?
No. I mean, no one in Gaza is, and they've been against Hamas for years. There's always talk of the 2006 election that Hamas won, but they had very little support in Gaza during that election, and they haven't had an election since. So 3/4 of the population of Gaza has never even voted. So to say that they elected Hamas, they support Hamas, and they don't. And opinion polls have reflected that as well, that Hamas has been abusing them for years and they have not been supportive of it. So Hamas, but there's nothing they could do about it because Hamas has guns and weapons and they're sort of oppressing the people of Gaza against their will. So there's been no support there for Hamas, but the people of Gaza have been suffering under Hamas with no way to overthrow them. So just having to deal with it. Mike
Casey, we're out of time. Thank you for your time. Appreciate your article. I'm going to link to it today in the show notes.
And we're back. Welcome to the after show, everyone. And if anyone missed the news in the Telegram group, Walter was also sharing it in the chat. St. John Henry Newman is going to be declared a doctor of the church. Pope Leo XIV approved that this morning.
Like on purpose? Like that we're doing this intentionally?
Yes.
Okay, name one thing that John Henry Newman wrote that's great.
The first Oratorian, his Apologia.
Okay, there you go. You win.
There you go.
I lose.
Good
job.
He's great.
It's official. He's great.
Yes, I quite like John Henry Newman, and he's an Oratorian, which is very exciting because we have, God willing, future Oratorians here in Buffalo. So very exciting.
When are they showing up, by the way? What's the deal there?
No, they're here. It's just they're not established officially as an oratory of St. Philip Neri. That takes time.
It takes time.
Yes.
See, as Holy Roman Emperor, there'd be no taking time. We'd cut all the red tape. We just rubber stamp everything and then figure it out later.
Yes, I know. You're the exact opposite of how Rome has always worked.
That's right. That's right.
Very Protestant of you, Joe.
Very. Wow. Golly, you is.
Got to cut all the red tape.
I will leave this
forget
knife
the process.
in my heart.
Forget the process.
In case you need
Just
it
do
for
things.
later, you're going to know where it is.
Joe and his Protestant work ethic. We're going to have a 6-day work week. We'll cut all the red tape.
That's exactly
GDP
right.
will be through the roof. It'll be better. Yeah.
We're going to be very productive.
Yeah.
In my empire.
I'll be over here taking my riposo.
Yeah, I bet you will. Your siesta. Yeah. Good morning, Jane. Jen. Good morning, Jen, as well. T Storm. Rebecca is here. Good morning on the telegrams. Good to see you all. Thank you for hanging out with us. Praise Jesus. Trad Burden, Tweed and Toe. Nielsen. Mary. Good morning to you. Mary, you are amazing. God bless you. Eileen is here. Good morning to you. Mike K. from sunny Virginia. Good morning to you. Paul, our friend from Buffalo. Good morning. JC. Good morning. James 16897. Good morning to you. Praise God. Never any fun to talk about the whole Israel thingy dingy, but I think it's important. And I'm glad we got Mike on the team to talk about that. It's so complicated though. College US. I see no solution to the problem. I see no future for a peaceful, good outcome in that situation. I just don't. I think it's going to be a mess till the end of time. Richard Corwin, good morning to you. Thank you for being on the team today. Really appreciate having you here. Smoggy Froggy is back. Good morning to you. Smoggy Froggy. Represent. Shout out the 716. What is the 716? You're going to have to explain that one. I don't even know. What did I just shout out? What am I representing? I have no idea. Andrew VA, thank you for being on the team. You are amazing. God bless you. So how do I join the Telegram group? Or is it just a private thing? No, you can join the Telegram group. The way you do it is you join the email list on the website, thestationofthecross.com/ACT. You'll see where it says email sign up. You smash the email sign up. You fill out this form. You click to join the insiders. And what happens is you're supposed to get an email from me automatically in your inbox that has all of the benefits you get for being on the insiders, to include a link to join the Telegram group. If you don't see it immediately, like within the next few minutes of signing up, then check your junk folder. If you don't see it after that, contact us, and we'll make sure you get it. Well, honestly, here's the thing: the proposition is, I'm supposed to harass your inbox. It even says it right here that I'm supposed to harass your inbox. Honestly, I have been failing at my job. I just haven't been harassing your inbox. I don't know what my problem is. This is why we need 6-day work week, because I have become very millennial, Gen Zer. I don't know what's the latest gen. I don't even know, but I'm kind of like
Alpha.
them. I'm feeling totally entitled and lazy at this point.
Joe's feeling very Roman and Catholic and has not been getting work done on time.
What's next? I'm going to start smoking, drinking, and taking in sugar. I mean, the end of the world is come upon us.
He'll be waking up with his cigarette and his little pastry.
I have become a complete
11 a.m.
shame to the Gen Xers out there hustling hard in hustle culture by not sending an email out very often. But generally, I mean, I need to get back. I'm going to get back. I promise you, I'm going to get back into the swing of it. I just need to get off the
Joe needs to get back on that Sigma grind set.
That's exactly right. Hustle culture, baby.
Yeah.
And anyway, you join that, you get an email from me, you get into the Telegram group. That's how that works.
For those who are confused in the chat, no offense, Janice, but this is people get these mixed up a lot. St. John Neumann is a different person from St. John Henry Newman. St. John Henry Newman was English. St. John Neumann
not just an accent problem.
Was here in the. It's a spelling problem too. You would be a little unhappy with the spelling differences here. You're like, why aren't they spelled the same way? But they're
Probably would.
St. John Neumann was here in Buffalo. He founded several of the parishes that still exist here in the Buffalo area. So
Neumann,
he's great. St. John Neumann. Yep. But
cool.
St. John Henry Newman is the English cardinal, member of the Oratory of St. Philip Neri, and now future doctor of the church.
And future doctor
Famous
of the church.
famous Anglican convert. He was a famous Anglican, and then he converted, and a lot of people were really mad at him that he converted. They were writing
kind of like Edmund
pamphlets
Campion.
against him. Yeah, exactly like that. And he was writing pamphlets back, defending. So very, very fascinating figure.
The greatest thing that I love of Newman is that he said to study history is to cease to be Protestant.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great quote.
That's my favorite quote of him. It's great. Hey, Eric Powell, good morning to you. Lowell Gen Zers, exactly. DXD 1500, good morning. Thanks for hanging out with us. Dr. Bob, welcome back. Good morning. Chesty Semperfi, Eric Powell, good morning to you. Gen Xer here too. That's right. Gen Xers, we rule. We are the greatest of all generations. There's no question in my mind about that. We're the generation that learned how to take a skateboard and launch off ramps with no helmets. Just throw caution to the wind. That's us. Okay. We did that. And you can tell how well that's been working out ever since.
Mm-hmm.
Alberto, good morning to you. John B. Good morning, says an American will not be a doctor of the church. Oh, wait, Leo the 14th. Yeah, that's right. I know. All bets are off now, right?
Yep.
We can no longer say these things.
Exactly.
It's quite possible that it's
John
it's
B, did you come to the chat today in a sloop?
Did what?
I was wondering if John B came to the chat today in a sloop.
In a sloop?
Yeah.
In a boat?
Sloop
in a
John B.
sailboat? John B.
Joe won't get that joke because he's a Gen Xer, not a boomer.
That's exactly right. I know what a sloop is.
Yeah. Sloop John B.
Sloop. Oh, that's the name of the sloop is the John
Come
B.
on, a sloop John B.
How's it go?
My grandfather and me.
I don't know
Around Nassau town we do roam.
Okay.
Drink
I don't know this
all
tune.
night. This
I'm
is
not
Beach
sure.
Boys. Exactly.
Is that
The Beach
is it
Boys.
Beach Boys?
Beach Boys is great American music.
Do you know how many last time I listened to the Beach Boys? That was like 40 years ago or something. Adelaide, good morning to you. Alberto, good morning. Root Dog, welcome back. Good morning. Thanks for bringing it on. She says, bring it on home, John B.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that. Look at the triggered. That's awesome. Joey Carter, good morning to you. He knew the tune. He knew the deal. I'm the only one that's left out in the cold. But in my defense, this is why I'm taking creatine now, so that I can remember these facts and figures in my head.
Joe is a believer in creatinism now.
Creatinism. I got where you're going with that one.
Mm-hmm.
Darren, good morning to you. From 3-day to 6-day work week. God said you have 6 days to work. I think he meant that literally. I'm a literalist.
Mm-hmm.
Zena, good morning to you. Love of money. What? Who's got love of money? Money. Can't wait to be done with it.
Can't take it with
Let's see. Sci-fi. See there. Lynn Pine, Nick, the Michael Gwensa. Good morning, James. Good morning to you. I see Don Paddock. Patty, good morning to you. Angelique, also, just keep everybody in Hunt, Texas, still in your prayers. She mentions how that it's still a mess there. There's a lot of debris still. There's lots of people helping out to clear up from the Texas flood situation, but it's still got its issues. Eric Rodriguez, good morning to you. Prayers for all. Amen. It kind of reminds me of the hurricane that hit North Carolina. When the Amish showed up, boy, did they really start getting the work done then, huh? Amish, do they work 6 days a week? I wonder. Also,
they probably work 7 because they're kind of odd.
They do not work 7. Stop it. You know, I don't know this. Pure speculation on my part. Take this with a grain of salt. But I wonder if the Amish are of the Protestant sects that literally take the Sabbath like extremely literally, in the sense that you can't do anything. Like you literally can't do anything.
They might.
You just basically sit there all day after their church service.
Joe, perhaps they really love their jobs and they never work a day in their life.
That's what I'm talking about. See? That's what I got to get this off screen. What are we doing? I don't even know what we're doing. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Alberto says, Joe, are you still doing 25 it was grams, not milligrams, by the way. It's 25 grams.
Yeah, there were a
Of
lot.
creatine.
There were a lot of people in the chat who were a little surprised when you listed that.
25 grams. Today I did probably 8 grams, maybe. So I scaled her back a wee bit today. The scooper is 5 grams a pop. So I did like a scoop and then like most of the next scoop kind of a thing. But I'm feeling zero effects of it. I don't feel sharper. I don't feel more cognitively whatever. I still feel old and sluggish, if I'm being honest. The Amish buffet. What? Shady Maple? Awesome. What? What is this? This is like a restaurant?
We're talking about Amish food, I think.
Is Amish food is it just Dutch food? Is that what we're talking about? Is Amish
the Amish
food
have good
just
food.
Dutch?
Well, it's it's weird because it's Americanized country food, inspired. There's German ancestry to it, that sort of thing.
Is it German or Dutch? I thought they were Dutch.
No, so here's the thing. They're called the Pennsylvania Dutch. They're all German. It's because the word for German is Deutsch.
Oh.
So over here, they're the Pennsylvania Deutsch.
Got it.
Yeah, they're not actually Dutch, they're German.
Got it.
Dutch.
Well,
the funny thing is
my
my grandfather was of German ancestry, Kraft. But when he was serving in the U.S. Army, his nickname was Dutch. I don't know why. They called him Dutch. And maybe it's because, Deutsch. Maybe it's because, they kind of just saw Kraft and thought maybe he was,
Or
who knows?
When was he serving?
He was serving during World War II. He fought in the Battle of the Bulge.
Could it have anything to do with like being nervous about your connections to Germany? And
It's possible. It's possible. Although he was born in America. He rode for.
I've heard stories of a lot of guys in that category who are like, yeah, my German last name's not doing me any favors right now.
Yeah, I was a little surprised to hear that he had fought in the European theater and not in the Pacific theater, but he was in the Army Corps of Engineers. So
interesting.
Yep.
Wow. Well, I wonder if it was a way to sort of offset that. That'd be interesting to know.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, maybe he might have gotten that nickname before the Army. I'm not sure.
Deutschland.
I remember.
Jawohl. Oh man, Germany is a very beautiful country. At least in the south. The north, South is gorgeous though. Really gorgeous. James 16897 from sunny Romania says, "I worked the Beach Boys 14 years ago." What do you mean you worked the Beach Boys?
A concert?
Like, did you work the concert? Were you a grip? Or, I mean, like, were you a roadie? Like, what'd you do? I'd like to know. By the way, earlier I saw Beverly from New Zealand. Is it still considered down under if it's from New Zealand? Or is that like just specific to Australia? I saw earlier in the chat Beverly saying that FBI Kash Patel guy was down there setting up an office. What's going on down there that we need an office?
I think they were expanding the existing office there, and it has to do with monitoring actions in the Pacific. Hey,
if you need volunteers, let me know. I'd like to come down and hang out in the New Zealand office. That'd be amazing.
Joe just wants to go become a hobbit.
I want to go see where Rohan was. Are you kidding me?
Exactly.
Yeah, everybody wants to go see the Hobbit. Whatever. I want to go see where Rohan was. Mm-hmm. Like, that's cool. That would be baller. It's not, the set's not there anymore, obviously, but you still have the there and back again guy. You still got all that. You tourists go visit that every year. That'd be kind of great, though. I mean, New Zealand looks incredibly gorgeous, really beautiful. If I went to Australia, one of the things I'd love to do is hang out on a road train, because in Australia they drive like semi-trailer tractors that call like three different trailers, like a train. That would be kind of cool. I would love to see that, or be on one of those for a bit to ride across the continent. That'd be amazing. James says, yes, I was a pro stage manager for the country fair. Oh, that's kind of cool.
There you go. That's
a great experience. That's amazing. The Beach Boys, huh? Well, who else performed there? I'm wondering. And where was this, James? I forget where you're from stateside. I know you live overseas, but I forget where you're from stateside. Beverly says, Joe, a law enforcement office. Yeah, that's why I was curious. Like, what are we doing down there that we need an FBI office? Joe, the news said that it was a new office and to do with the Chinese. Oh, so they're monitoring the Chinese. Interesting. Good morning to you, Robert D. Bruce. Bitteschön, Janice, spouting off all that German there. Going to get people excited. Colleen, good morning to you. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Appreciate you being on the team. Susie, I see you there. Good morning. Thanks for being on the team today. I'm feeling very foggy brain today, actually. Don't know what my issue is. Does Gen X start at 1965? Does it start in 65? Does it go that far back? Huh. That seems like really far back to me, but I don't know. I'm not sure. We should get Jake to fact check that. James says he was from Washington State. How do I say that? Puyallup. Is it Puyallup? Puyallup? I don't even know. Washington. Starts in 65? That's crazy. Gen X starts in 65. So I'm a youngin' in the Gen Xers.
All that stuff is kind of like vague too. It's, the crossover
it's set
point.
in stone. It's 100%. It's clear. It's kind of like the what do you call the four personalities?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. It's
the four temperaments.
100% science.
Yes.
It's rock solid. And obviously, Gen Xers are the greatest generation. There's not even a question of that.
Of course.
It's just fact.
That's what the X stands for.
That's right. Exactly.
Extra
cool.
Extreme.
Extra amazing.
Yep.
Extra.
Extreme.
The FBI must want to monitor Catholics in Australia.
Are there any left?
I don't know.
I know.
Apparently,
we have like the last 5 of them are here in the chat. I've heard really rough things about you folks in Australia. Just lot of tough times for Catholics in Australia. God bless them.
Yikes.
Yeah, it's the situation's not good in our Anglo brother nations.
I definitely didn't understand where Australia was coming from with the whole lockdown thing. That was some of the most bizarrest stories coming out of Australia during that time. Arresting a single person on a beach, for instance. Like, what are we doing exactly? I mean, it is the definition of social distancing. The only person on the beach until, of course, the entire law enforcement shows up to arrest that person.
Yeah, you think of the most extreme examples here in the U.S. of people just going insane with those lockdown restrictions and things, and it was basically that bad everywhere in the U.K., in Australia, New Zealand, Canada. It's been rough.
Rough.
Very rough.
Yeah, exactly. Explain that to me. Got some explaining to do, Lucy. Hey, the traditional Thomas is back. Nicholas Cavazos, good morning to you. Thanks for hanging out. Again, speaking truth. Speaking truth to power, I would argue. Says Joe McClain equals greatest genealogist. So true. So true, King. So true. What are we talking about? Jake is humble? What?
It's true. It says so on the mug. World's producer.
Humblest. It does say it. Okay,
it says it on the mug.
Confirmed.
Says it on the mug.
Confirmed.
Yep.
Says it right there. Must be true.
It is set in
Beverly
ceramic.
Says, set in ceramic. Therefore, it is law. We are so surprised to see Cash on first on the news. Like, what's he doing here? Yeah, that'd be really curious. What is he doing there? Why is he there? What are we doing? I don't know. Susie says, being in Melbourne was a nightmare. We had the strictest lockdowns in the world. I didn't obey them. It's
my heart goes out to Australia because I have a great admiration for Australian culture and history and everything, and things are so rough under the government of all these other, Anglo nations. Basically, it's just terrible.
Laura, Gen X on the team. Look at you go. Praise be to God. Carolyn says mugs can't lie.
Exactly.
See? There you go. Mm-hmm. It's fact. It's fact checked. It's set in stone. Caleb the Mechanic says Gen X is 65 to 80. Does it go to 80? Is it that far? Like, that's a huge range. Doesn't quite make sense when boomers are 46 to 64, which is a 20-year span.
Well, 65 to 80 is 46 to 64 is 18-year span. 65 to 80 is a 15-year span. It's not too
But
off,
isn't
right?
a generation a 40-year span?
Is it? I thought it was average a 20-year span. I thought a generation was 20.
In Scripture, it's generally a 40-year span.
Yeah, but they lived longer back then.
I'm not buying on that one because we're talking New Testament references.
Okay,
not
yeah.
old. So
We're not talking Methuselah.
Yeah, we're not talking Methuselah levels here. I had to think about that for a second. I'm like, I don't know. I'm specifically referring to Jesus saying this generation will not pass until it sees all of these things come to pass. Speaking of the destruction of the temple is what I was thinking about. But now you made me, my brain was.
Yeah, but this generation, like
trying to overcome the creatine.
The generation, it's the range of birth versus the length of a. Does that make sense? Like this generation.
Well, that's I guess.
If you're saying this generation shall not pass, you're saying that the people alive in this generation shall not pass, as opposed to the birth range of the generation. Does that make sense? You know,
well, I guess
two
that's my
different,
point. Is
two different uses of the term.
Can we pick a standard and keep it? That's my point. It's like we just need to come up with.
Well, again, we have trouble picking the crossover point for some of these generations. So.
Okay, so what you're saying then, to take away the moral to this story is Joe McClain needs to be Holy Roman Emperor so we can get this stuff settled quickly, efficiently, without any.
Because everyone knows that when the Holy Roman Emperor speaks, there's never any issues or problems or protests. The Pope never 100%. Contradicts him.
Never.
They're never fighting, and the Pope is getting driven out of Rome by the Emperor.
Exactly.
There's never any disagreement. So
never, and even the UN goes along with it at that point.
Exactly.
It's just an amazing thing. Mm-hmm. The World Health Organization doesn't even question it.
Yep,
it's that good. Xi Jinping is like, "Amen, brother," and then it's over. Mm-hmm. There's no more discussion or debate. It's that good. The traditional Thomist says, "Jake, don't question the greatest genealogist and biblical scholar."
Oh, yes.
Wise words, wise advice, sage advice from the traditional Thomist.
Traditional Thomist is like, he's like doing my bit in the chat.
It's great.
This is great. I've got allies. He's doing all my work for me. I can do other things.
He's smart.
Right now.
He's very manipulative because he knows that if he comes out and says Jake is right, the banhammer happens. Exactly. You're not allowed to say those things in our chat boxes. But if you were like, passive aggressive and you're like, you use the angelic language of sarcasm, well, then you can get away with it, right? Mm-hmm. Like, that's how that works. He's not a dumb cookie, the traditional Thomist.
Well, he's a Thomist, yeah.
He's a Thomist. Susie says, I think our prime minister is scared of President Trump. He hasn't met him yet. This is not good for Australia. Orange man can be scary. There's no question. He's big. He's a big guy. He's an intimidating fella.
And he's from New York.
That's true. And he's from New York, but apparently he is not capable of standing up to Israel. I think that's what we learned today. No matter how scary he may be, or orange, for that matter. 1,000 years are a day, and a day 1,000 years. Yeah, that became literally true for Adam.
To be fair, it may not be a matter of standing up. It may just be a matter of him wanting the same thing. It's up to you which one you like.
Gentleman's
less.
Choice. Gentlemen, which one is worse?
Which one is worse?
Which one is worse? Holy Roman Emperor of New Zealand. Beverly, I'd take it. If that's all I could get, I would take it. New Zealand looks like an incredibly beautiful country. I would absolutely love to spend some time down there checking it out. You could go. You can even go hunting. I know. I mean, I watched some hunters that go hunting down in New Zealand. And it looks absolutely epic. So it would just be so amazing. Someday I want to go on an epic hunt, whether it's caribou or moose, maybe even like mountain doll sheep or something.
I really want to go on a safari. That's what I want.
Goat is tasty, so it would be really, really good. Do you mean an African safari?
Yes.
There's a lot of people who get grief when they do that because they post all their pictures to social.
Yeah, I wouldn't post the pictures on social. I would just have the trophies.
Do you know what happens on African safaris? You pay the money to go hunt whatever animal you're paying to hunt.
Mm-hmm.
The local village gets all the meat.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's
fine.
I mean, it's good that they're being fed,
it's about the thrill of the hunt.
What if I want the meat? What can I have the meat? I want the meat.
We've got deer and beef here in America. We've
I don't
got the
need
best beef in the world. It's all right.
I don't need elephant tusks.
As long as I get a
Tusks
taste.
up here, but
As long as I get a taste of the antelope, I'm fine giving the rest of it
That's all
away.
you want is a taste?
Yeah,
I'd want to
yeah,
fill
'cause-
my freezer full of it. What are you talking
because
about?
you can do that with deer here in the States.
Oh, yeah, easier said than done.
Yeah,
Now, how
well,
much
of course,
deer meat?
easier said than
See,
done.
let me ask, how much deer meat did we have in none? You got 0 deer meat in the freezer from last year. Oh, okay.
The point
So,
of
yeah.
going on safari in Africa is to go off into the wilderness and experience the thrill of some of the greatest hunting in the world.
Why do I have a
that's
song
the
in my
experience.
head right now? What's the song in my head?
Bum, 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 ba-dum, bum, ba. Bum, 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 ba-dum, bum, ba.
This, okay. I get there's a tune that's coming in my head. It's from from my Gen X times.
Yes, it's a great tune.
Can you sing it? What's the
Hear
lick
the
go?
drums echoing tonight. She hears only whispers of some quiet conversation. Bum, bum, ba-dum, bum, bum. Great song.
Down in Africa. That's the only thing I remember of the whole
So people
song
are
is
going to turn
that
this one off.
2 syllables right there. Where's the beef? Exactly, Darren. Exactly. Why am I going to go across the world to hunt a big animal that I can't even put in my freezer? I mean, I'm happy the villagers
You're
get
going
the
to pay
meat.
to ship that all across the ocean?
I'm glad the villagers get to eat that, so it's not a wasted situation. It's not like what PETA makes it out to be.
That's the point. When you go hunting,
the villagers make out.
When you go hunting in Africa, you are supporting conservation in Africa. That's what you're doing. So
It's true. I don't argue that.
This is a philanthropic effort.
But I want to support the bellies of my children.
Yes. So just go
with large quantities.
That's why you got to go hunt a deer.
Of meat.
You got to give up the dreams of being a philanthropic big game hunter in Africa and just
I want to
hunt the
be
deer.
philanthropic to my children. That's what I want to do. So I'm going to support.
You can do that close to home.
Nutritional. No, I have tried. You're missing the memo here. I have tried.
You're trying to have your venison and eat it too in this situation of I want to go to Africa and bring back all the meat for my kids. It's like no, God says no. You got to pick one or the other.
You can't eat the horns. Just so you know, you can try.
You can make
They're
spoons
not
out of them.
tasty. You can make a spoon.
Yeah.
You can make a spoon. That's true. Rebecca says, Joe, come to Michigan to hunt. We have so many deer that sometimes come into our cities. Exactly. This is my point. Like, why do we have such a deer infestation issue? Clearly, my services are needed. But the problem is in America is private land is a roadblock for any like me. T-Storm says there are wild pigs running all over Houston. You can't just kill a wild pig anywhere in Houston. You obviously have to have. Like, I couldn't walk down the street, and even in my neighborhood, if I saw wild hogs down the way, I couldn't hunt them here. It's not allowed. There are rules that prevent you from just killing wild animals, even if they're in neighborhoods. So therein lies the problem. A Catholic Take karaoke. Let's go, Alberto says. All right, you guys pick the tune, and we'll make Jake sing it.
Oh, no.
I like this idea. This is a great idea. I don't know what could go wrong. Here, the deer are protected, Alberto. You can't kill the king's deer, Alberto. Peasants can't kill the king's deer. It's for the king to kill, not for the rest of you. You can hunt stag in Scotland, but it's not cheap. It costs a lot of money, unfortunately. But boy, would I ever love to hunt a stag in Scotland. Woo, that'd be a good time right there. Laura, wild turkeys in my driveway. Laura, shoot one and send me the meat. I tell you what, we debate whether or not we want to move, my family and I. I could easily move back to New Hampshire. One of the reasons, there's lots of reasons, actually. New Hampshire's such a beautiful state. But one of the reasons is wild turkey. Lots of wild turkey in New Hampshire. So if you owned a piece of property, wouldn't even need to be very big, that saw routinely wild turkey coming across it. Turkey for Thanksgiving, anyone? Turkey for Christmas?
Oh, I drink wild turkey every night.
Do you? Yeah, well, this is not
true.
the wild turkey you are looking for.
I don't usually buy wild turkey.
Because it's too cheap for you? Because it's
just because
good stuff? Or?
What I prefer to keep on hand is Dewar's Scotch, blended Scotch, because that's great for a Scotch and soda. And then
don't eat meat. It's
try
cancer.
Other ones.
What? DXD. I eat meat. I'm a carnivore. It's all I generally eat is meat. What do you mean? That's my thing. Joe got to come to New Zealand. My nephew-in-law's dad has a farm with wild deer, pigs. Oh, I may look for a sloop so I can make my way down there just for that one reason alone. Maybe I can work as a deckhand on a merchant ship, get myself down there for a season. That'd be amazing. We got to bring Jake, though. We'll do the whole show for a season from New Zealand. We'll do hunting season in New Zealand. When is hunting season there? That's the next question.
We should start doing like actual seasons of the show, so we can have like one season where it's ACT Down Under, you know.
Yes, right. ACT Road.
We should have one season from Miami, ACT Vice, you know, like that sort of thing. That'd be great.
we will go to what is that? What Turo? We'll go to Turo and rent ourselves a Lambo or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Drive it around.
We have to. It has to be a custom one where it's a custom body kit, so the car doesn't actually exist. You can't actually get it because that's what they were driving for a lot of Miami.
Well, for the first few seasons,
yeah,
right?
I think it was the first few, right?
They ended with a real Lamborghini. They had a Countach.
Yes, that's right. They had
the white Countach at the end. But the first car was a Ferrari, supposedly, but it was the kit car that built it.
Exactly. That's the one in the famous in the air sequence. Yep.
I can feel it coming in the air tonight. Oh Lord! So man, that's epic. Just go YouTube that video right now.
That's a great scene.
It's
some Michael Mann's great work.
So dramatic.
Great director.
That thing. I think that thing did more to influence music videos than any band ever.
Yes, 100%.
In the 80s. Man, just the look on their faces. They knew something serious was about to go down. Remember when he stops at the payphone to call the girl that he should have married and had kids with and settled down, but never did? You knucklehead. Yeah. I just got to know. Was that thing we had? Was it real? Okay, thanks. Got to go.
Yeah.
Gonna go kill somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
Crazy.
Great scene.
Great scene. Man, oh man. Andrew from Virginia says, "Are you guys more Matt Fradd cigar smoking traditionalists or Dr. Taylor Marshall scholarly traditionalists?"
Neither.
Well, Jake is. Jake is definitely a combo of those two things. There's no question in my mind about that. I, however, don't smoke and I don't drink. I mean, I can't.
And I'm not a scholar, so
I'm not opposed to the drinking thing. I just don't. I don't, generally speaking, I don't drink and I don't smoke. I haven't smoked since I got out of the
Is Matt
Marine
Fradd
Corps.
even a traditionalist anyway?
Yeah, absolutely. He's
that's why he supports, you know, we're just going to come
Ukrainian?
up with a new fusion right, you know, like
he's a Ukrainian Greek. What do you mean?
Oh yeah, that's
he's
trad.
He's totally trad. I don't even know what you're saying there.
He's a Ukrainian Greek from Australia or whatever he is.
But who lives in America.
Yes, but who lives in America.
Which is why he's Greek, you see. It's because, don't you know? Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I stopped smoking in 1996. 1996 or 95? Might have been 95. It would have been late 95. Or maybe
that's why
96.
I smoke. You transferred it to me in the year of my birth.
The year of your birth.
Mm-hmm.
How do we get to such a conversation? I don't even know. Which song? What are we talking about? Have you had wild turkey? I hit one of them with your van. If you hit an animal with your van, did you know? Fun fact, you can always call Fish and Game and get an emergency tag in order to harvest the meat so the animal doesn't go to waste. Some places, they're going to make you wait until the guy shows up to issue that tag. Others, not so much. It's why if you live in the country, it's good to have Fish and Game on speed dial because you just never know when you're going to run across a deer or a turkey or something like a moose, maybe. My dad hit 2 moose when he lived in New Hampshire. The second one had already been hit by a car and was at night too. And he was lucky to live through those situations because moose kill many people. They're so big, you hit them, you clip their legs, they come through the windshield and they land in your lap. And in New Hampshire, places like New Hampshire, there's signs everywhere. A moose had killed somebody in a car wreck. They put up a sign there, and there was lots of signs. It's really pretty scary, actually. So I take it you aren't Taylor. I have no issue with Taylor Marshall whatsoever, Andrew from VA. I like Taylor Marshall just fine. But I don't smoke and I don't drink. So that was the context in which we were talking about.
I do enough for the both of us, so you don't got to worry about that, Joe.
Jake is making it up. Jake is making up for my slackedness. E. Crewer, good morning. There's also an Alan Harrelson, a.k.a. the Pipe Cottage, who's a pipe-smoking convert to Catholicism. We used to interview him. He used to be on the show.
I know.
Maybe he heard me trying to imitate his accent. He got offended. I hope not. I mean, it was meant in love.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy watching a Alan Harrelson video.
He's got some great
I love
little
that
chats.
That draw. Unfortunately, he canceled on us one morning, the morning he was supposed to be on, and he decided he would not come back. I do not know why. He has not shared his sentiments with me, but I wish him the best.
Joe's stuck. You flipped the switch on Joe's accent. Now he's not going to get out of it.
Speaking of accents, can I just share a fun story? So yesterday, you may or may not know that I am starring in a film production in September. I'll be flying to Idaho for the filming of it. It's a story called Fabiola. Great young Catholic crew who have been making homemade movies since they were little kids, and they're now young adults, and they're like, hey, you know what would it take to do this at a greater level? And they have decided to challenge themselves, push themselves to a much higher level of production. And I'm very proud of them for doing this. And so they asked me, and I'm only teasing, I'm not starring in it. I'm just playing a minor role. I play the character of Saint
You're playing
Hilary.
a minor?
I'm playing
like
not a minor.
Tin minor?
I identify as a minor.
Oh.
100%. Easy. Just ask my wife. She'll tell you. I'm playing a minor role. I play the role of Saint Hilarion in this film, which is an actual saint. I have his book right here. Saint Jerome wrote about his life. Saint Jerome, the great curmudgeon, wrote about Saint Hilarion. Saint Hilarion was essentially like the successor of Anthony of the Desert. Incredible man. He could smell the sin on people. So if you reeked of sin, mortal sin, and he would like wince, you knew you were in real trouble. Anyway, so fun fact, yesterday I was on a Zoom call last night with the director of this film, and we were going through the script and my scenes, and we're talking about, all this stuff about getting ready for my trip out to film these scenes. And I told her I wanted to do an accent. And she looked at me and was like, okay, sure. And so I had decided when I was given this role that when they asked me to do the role that I would attempt an accent. And I chose for my accent, the goal of my accent is the Lawrence of Arabia, Omar Sharif.
Nice.
Like that's who I was. So I've been watching Omar Sharif content to hear his voice so I can try to mimic his accent. And I won't spoil it for you by trying to do it here, but she liked the accent. I'm just gonna say she liked the accent. So
there you go.
Oscars? Anyone?
So Joe, does your YouTube chat show Andrew as Andrew VA?
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting because on mine it's the Vatican flag. That's what the VA stands for. It's a little Vatican flag symbol. But
there's an actual flag on yours?
There's an actual flag emoji, yeah. But I guess on yours,
interesting.
On yours, for whatever reason, it's showing it as the text form of the emoji or whatever. So,
I thought it stood for Virginia.
Yeah, but he commented on that.
Oopsies, mea culpa. Says, I agree. In 24, not a smoker or drinker. Too much of that runs in the family bloodline. Also from Maryland and not from Virginia. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to insult you. But for some reason, the Vatican flag and the name is seen as VA. That's wild.
If you were from Virginia, Joe, if you were
Virginia,
if you were say Mike the Brick Wall, you would have said, "Oh, you're not from Virginia. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to compliment you."
Well, okay, hold on. During the war betwixt the states, it was commonly held that Maryland. The people of Maryland sided with the good people of Virginia, but the government did not.
Yeah.
But I don't know that turned out to be true.
You mean the war betwixt the Yankees and the Americans?
Exactly.
In the words of Granny Moses?
Exactly. 100%. Maryland, beautiful place, by the way. Passed through there last year. Beverly says, we were inland from Brisbane, orienteering and staying on a farm where roosters just jumped all around. It was supper or super? Which one do you mean? I hope he meant it was supper. That'd be good. E. Kruger says, do Aussie body shops advertise kangaroo collision repairs the way our local Central Illinois body shops advertise deer collision?
Probably, because I think I've known two people who've gone to visit Australia, and both of them have hit a kangaroo with their car while in Australia. Literally can't avoid it.
And I would eat as much of that animal as I could if I actually hit one. I've only ever hit birds, really. Squirrels, maybe.
I've bumped into deers late at night on country roads, where I'm
really?
not driving. I'm not driving very fast, and they come across and they try to run away, but they're not running fast enough, and I'm not braking fast enough, so I bump them and knock them over. But I've never fully, full speed hit a deer. God be praised. Hopefully, you never do. But once or twice, at least twice, a deer has come out, and I've actually bumped into them, and they've kind of fallen over and then got up and ran back into the woods, at low speed, basically. It's very annoying. They're very annoying creatures.
No, they're very tasty.
I wish we had a longer hunting season so we could cull them a little bit more.
I do too. I'm thinking about getting a flintlock or a muzzle loader this year.
Oh yeah,
just to extend my season.
Yep.
Give me more opportunity. I'm considering it. Loki says, Joe, why haven't you had Michael Knowles on? I have in the past. I've interviewed Michael Knowles. I might have interviewed him twice. I interviewed him once for sure. I might have interviewed him a second time. He's kind of hard to get a hold of. So you have to go through Daily Wire to book him. I don't know. I haven't been motivated to do it again, to be honest with you. But I have interviewed him. If you search my YouTube channel, you can find where I interviewed him before. What would you want me to talk to him about precisely? Drinking and smoking? Maybe, because that's his thing too, right? Rebecca says the Civil War was described in a novel read long ago, The Late Great Unpleasantries. Luke, good morning to you. Interstate highways here in Australia are littered with dead kangaroos. Are they really? Nobody stops to harvest the meat on the tail? Is it because you don't have a cooler with you or something like that? Feels like if you killed a kangaroo, you might just get a ton of meat out. I mean, don't you sell kangaroo meat in grocery stores? Seems like it'd be a waste. Laura says, deer are beautiful creatures running in the woods. 8 deer staring at me and not caring I was there. It's beautiful. It is beautiful. Yeah. And I agree. They are beautiful creatures.
I would love to come across that in hunting season.
I just think they're also tasty. Some of the best meat I could feed my children is deer meat. It's the leanest meat. So good. It's great. I know that, besides, we do feed them corn a little, and corn is GMO. There's the downside. There's the rub, isn't it? But when you find them wild. Oof. Susan, good morning to you. Ave Maria just popped in to say good morning, praying for you all, for your needs and petitions. Praise be to God. Well, Susan, look forward to seeing you soon. She's going to be headed back this way soon. DXD 1500. Who cares about what exactly?
That's a great question.
Meat and hunting and deer. Does anybody care about any of this? I don't know. It's just all silly conversation at the end of the day. But I certainly care about hunting because I love to.
Me too.
I love to hunt. I was going to say something and now I forget what I was going to say. This is the problem with being old, and apparently creatine doesn't work because my mind is not sharp. And I had a thought, and that thought went poof. See you later. Goodbye. James says it worked for Elmer Fudd's spear and magic helmet. Something else was talking about the spear hunting season.
There's a lot of places where spearfishing is illegal, isn't it?
Well, there are places where you can hunt big game animals with spears.
Yeah, that's
still today. There was a hunter on YouTube, a famous television hunter. He was stirring up the pot hard a couple years back by doing that. I forget what his name was, but he was a wild guy. He was bird hunting with a compound bow.
Wow. Like
birds that fly through the air
with
a compound bow, which is amazing to me. I know people who hunt birds with bows, but usually like recurves, not compounds. And then he got into spear hunting. He would hide in trees and wait for hogs to run by, and then he would do the Rambo thing on him, which was hilarious. First blood thing. Joe was referring to my comment. Who cares about Australia? All I talk about is food. Well, there you go. That's probably true. Actually, DXD. You're not lying. That's probably true.
It all comes down to that eventually.
It all comes down to food, cars, movie. It's the same. It's the same shtick no matter what I do. But as far as who cares about Australia, I think a lot of people do. Australia is an incredible country.
We love Australia.
We definitely care. Rabbit season, duck season, rabbit season, duck season, says Ikura. I saw some great rabbits not long ago. I was fishing with my sons. We saw some rabbits, but it wasn't rabbit season. Got to be careful with the rabbits. The rabbits have worms. So when you clean them, you got to kind of
better to get
either that or you just treat it like protein.
Rabbit is tasty.
My wife's family grew up with rabbits. They had cages in the backyard. Mm-hmm. See what you did, DXD? You said who cares, and now Jake's kicking us off air. See what you've done now?
I have work to do, that's all.
Vegans spear a mint, Colin. There you go, folks. Food, cars, songs, movie. Darren, we are such a broken record, aren't we?
We are.
We have nothing good to offer the whole world. Well, tomorrow on the show, speaking of which, Dr. Stein is Fridays with Stein is back. And then, of course, we have Michael Hitchborn also back on the show. It's been a couple weeks, 3 weeks, a month, or whatever it's been since we've had Michael Hitchborn on. So he's going to be on with us. Praise be to God. We're going to catch up with him. And then, of course, whatever you want to talk about, which, of course, includes food, cars, music, whatever. We'll see you there. God love you. Thanks for being on the team and having a laugh. We'll see you.